Welcome to Behind the Voice, a sub-series of the Rural Recharge podcast. I'm your host, Jeb Smith, president of Florida Farm Bureau Federation. This special series takes you behind the scenes to meet the leadership team at Florida Farm Bureau Federation. Each episode will highlight the various departments that work together to ensure our members' voices are heard. From advocating for smart policy to providing vital resources, our staff is committed to fulfilling our mission of increasing the net income of farmers and ranchers and improving the quality of rural life. Our guests joining us today are Lance Watson, Director of National Legislative Affairs, and Tripp Hunter, Director of State Legislative Affairs for the Florida Farm Bureau Federation. Our conversation today will detail how Lance and Tripp and the Legislative Affairs team serve our members of the Florida Farm Bureau Federation and advance the voice of agriculture. Welcome today, guys.
Thanks for having us, President Smith.
Absolutely. So, all right, let's get started today. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you came to Farm Bureau, and a little bit about your current role. We'll start with you, Lance.
All right. Thank you. So I guess I'll take you all the way back. The Watson family, they come from Gadsden County by way of North Carolina through Scotland. They came down to Florida, Gadsden County, back in 1911. From there, my great-granddad started the farm back in 1914, right there on the outskirts of Gretna, Florida, and Quincy, Florida, and Gadsden County. And from there, he farmed tobacco for a while, passed away. And when my granddad was in college, dropped out of FSU and got on the farm and picked up right where he left off, farmed tobacco in the area up until the mid 1970s. And from there, they did pigs, they did cattle. He worked at IFAS for a stint right there at the research station in Quincy. My dad's one of five growing up, and so the farm ended up being split off into a few different sectors. And through the plot that my dad got, he was a dentist by trade, but growing up, he called himself a hobby farmer. I think it ended up being a lot more full-time than he thought it was going to be, but, grew up surrounded with Black Angus cows, Charolais cows, a bunch of different types of birds out there. And, happy to say that land is still in the family. We're still growing and cutting hay on it today.
Tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up in the political realm and how you ended up at Farm Bureau.
Sure. So I got to give a lot of that credit to my dad. He was a local politician in Gadsden County, was mayor of Quincy for 8 years, and then went on to be a county commissioner there in District 2 for 12 years. So, grew up, riding around in his truck, campaigning with him, really got bit by that political bug early on. He was loved American history, loved all things American politics. And so just early on, just knew that's something that I wanted to do and kind of carved my way into doing that. Went to Florida State, graduated there with my bachelor's degree in history and political science and stayed for a master's degree in public policy. I've worked for a think tank in Tallahassee. Through that, met a gentleman who got me linked up with, at the time, Senator Rubio, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Ran his office in Tallahassee for a couple years. Did some stints in state government, Legislative Affairs Director for both Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation and also the Public Service Commission. And a year and a half ago, you guys took a chance on me here at Farm Bureau, and happy to be here.
We're happy to have you here. Thank you, Lance, and thank you for that background. It's nice to have a solid ag background and one that you were raised up in and ended up in politics too, and how it blends together. It's
Yes,
really
sir.
neat. All right, Tripp, tell us a little bit about your family history, background, and how you ended up at Farm Bureau.
Thank you, President Smith. So we have Georgia in our roots, and you'll probably hear it if you're listening to this podcast. The accent kind of trickled down into North Florida, but grew up in Tallahassee, lived there my whole life. Got a farm in Bainbridge, Georgia. It's about an hour north of Tallahassee. We have longleaf pines there, loblolly pines, and I remember being a part of control burns from the age of 5 on. A little side story, I remember that one of those control burns ended up in fire trucks at the farm, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I'm 5, 6 years old. It's like, there's all these fire trucks, and I remember riding back home with my dad being like, don't tell your mom, don't tell your mom, don't tell your mom. And I get there and tell her all about the fire trucks. And one of the many stories we have from that farm, and that's kind of where I saw agriculture. It's family-oriented, it's hands-on, and it's just a lot of good memories and good values instilled at a young age. So I went on to Auburn University. I got an ag degree in ag business and economics, graduated from there, and then decided to work in production ag for a couple of years out of college. And so worked in production ag and did that for Simpson Nurseries out of Monticello, Florida. We were in Monticello and Smithville, Tennessee, and a large commercial tree farm, and learned a ton about getting hands-on experience. Some days I'm in this suit that I'm wearing now and wish I was still doing some of that, because there's a ton of value in the sweat equity and hard work you find in the ag trade. I've been around the political scene my whole life. I had the privilege of having a father. I still have a father who is involved in that world, and he's represented ag entities all over the state and done a fine job. One of the neat stories I have to share that's kind of led me to my Farm Bureau roots. I remember being a sophomore in college and trying to figure out, where am I going to land? How am I going to start my career? What do I want to do with this ag business degree? Well, it led me to this office that we're actually sitting in
No,
now.
right.
And I remember sitting in here with then President Hoblick, and he took the time with me as a kid he didn't know. He had worked around my father a little bit, but he didn't know me from Adam. And it showed me Farm Bureau invest in people. And he talked to me for 45 minutes about advocacy and planted that seed. I didn't know if it would ever come to fruition.
Right.
And now I'm sitting here and it came full circle.
How
And
about
so it led me into the advocacy world. Mike Joyner at Florida Fruit and Vegetable Association really took a chance on bringing me into this world. And so spent 2 years at FFVA as their director of legislative affairs, really got to know the specialty crop industry.
Right.
Awesome industry. It's great to have that in our state. And fortunately, I didn't have to leave that industry when I came to Farm Bureau. I just got to learn some more. And so fortunately, y'all gave me the opportunity to make the jump to Farm Bureau. It's the largest ag organization in the state. We make a big impact in Tallahassee and Lance in DC, and it's because of our members. And I knew this was a place I wanted to end up. I know that the values of Farm Bureau are similar to mine, and it's been a really good experience.
Well, and congratulations and thank you for being here as well. FFEA invested in you, but we kept you in the family. And I know still have that relationship where it's very, very valued, especially in the specialty crop industry. And the FFEA knows that they can call you and still have that relationship because we share members too.
Yep.
So very healthy. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your role and key functions in your position. Tell us about that. And Lance, why don't you start with that part?
Sure. So I think for Tripp and I both, I think we're in both the relationship building and then also the problem solving. Those are probably the two biggest things that we probably work on day to day, week to week. And with that, I would say, if you've got a member that's calls you with an issue, concern, whatever it may be, being able to pick up the phone or shoot a text, fill in the blank in whoever's office, whether that's an agency, whether that's a member, whoever it may be, just having those relationships is, I think, critical to the work we do. And then also, too, by having those relationships, you are able to get the problem in the right hands to then help solve it.
And you say anything, and it does. I mean, I've actually run some things by you that weren't even ag, but to remember needs and member issues that you've handled, especially with a contact or at least a relationship that you developed with a member or with the member staff.
Sure, absolutely. And I think too, and that doesn't necessarily have to be an ag issue either. That's one thing that I've tried to push the last little bit, coming from a congressional office, working for Senator Rubio, recognizing the constituent services aspect to these state offices here and district offices. That's what they're there for. They're a resource, whether that's passports, any sort of VA issue, Social Security, you name it. They're there to help you, and sometimes you just need to be pointed in the right direction.
Absolutely. But also when it comes to ag issues, that those things that folks may need to weren't even recognized or understood, but may have just cropped up. You deal with them and can connect people with the right spots and right agency or the right connection within that agency. And if not, then we got to go to a member or member staff as well.
Yes, sir.
And so that covers a large plethora of the entire scope of what we deal with at whether it be trade or whether it be USDA or anything along those lines. I'm not doing your spots for you. I tell you do a lot of different things. And I think the most important thing is, Lance, is that it's relational. And those are relationships and that you have developed through a long time of being in the business, political realm, that are very, very healthy.
Sure, absolutely. And we've got some wins we can point to for this last year as we close out 2025 that we can look at and say, because of relationships that maybe I don't have, maybe Tripp has them, maybe another staffer here at Farm Bureau that's been able to move the needle and get some things done and put points on the board.
Very good. All right, Tripp, tell us a little bit about your role and key functions, especially in your position at the state level.
We should mention, though, before we get into that, if you're on a summer vacation and need a passport, Lance is your guy. People panic, they see the 90-day thing. Lance can make those happen pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the constituent services can pull that off.
It's not about what you know; it's a matter of who you know.
That's right.
Sometimes that's right. Now you may have to drive to Miami to get it done,
Exactly.
but it can get done.
That's
right.
right.
But no, President Smith, answering your question, y'all kind of hit the nail on the head. It's relationships and trust. And it's being upfront on the issues that you're working on, letting those members know the potential negative connotations of what we might be working on. And when we go into offices and advocate, when we go into legislators' offices and ask for sponsorship and support of their legislation, we want to be fully transparent because at the end of the day, their name is on the vote. Right. It's on the bill number. It's on the piece of legislation. And if you put them in a corner, they're going to remember that. We were always up front at Farm Bureau. We build trust, we build relationships, and honestly, we get to build relationships through the outdoors, through agriculture, on farm tours, using the benefits of the land we have to provide people outdoor experiences that they may have not had wherever they might have come from, and building those memories, planting those seeds, and who knows where it'll take those folks. But thus far, it's built us some really good relationships in Tallahassee and DC and all over the state. And a lot of that is through just being upfront and honest about the goals of our organization, following our policy and just working hard and doing the right things. And it's paid off well for Farm Bureau. And I think our brand is well respected across the state and the nation.
It's interesting, though, because both of you were raised in the area of Tallahassee, and those relationships, some of them are from your high school days, your growing up years, family connections within that particular area that are very strong and very helpful to our members. I mean, we talk at times, you have connections that were in high school, Tripp, and it just is very interesting how that connects, and there's a connection to an office and connection to a member, and it opens up a whole realm of opportunity. But also your dad. I mean, your dad is well interested and very well respected. In fact, I knew your dad long before I knew you as a county commissioner, in some of the representation that he had done for some of his clients, and just the value of his reputation, his testimony there in Tallahassee is far reaching. And I know you can reach out to him on issues that you may need some connection with as well, or some context with, so you can tap into Dad, the old man.
It goes both ways, Dad. If you're listening, don't let that go to your head. But no, it's a connections game and a connections business. And we're really good at building those connections. President Smith, you're well connected all over the state. Lance and I, growing up in Tallahassee, actually going to the same high school. It's unique. We get to work together now. Odds are somebody's got a connection to it. And when one of us sitting at this table doesn't, one of our board members does, one of our members does. And if you can we're professionals at breaking the gatekeeper. And so if you can create a familiar relationship, then it's way easier to get in their door and explain your position.
And that's the beauty of the reach of Farm Bureau right there.
It is. It's a fabric that is intertwined, and it is truly grassroots. I mean, this is the way we function, but also the Farm Bureau way and the culture is respect and treating people well and being, as you said, transparent. There may be things we don't agree on, but we can be very clear about that and still be respectful when we leave an office, or when we don't damage that relationship. And I think that's very, very important. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about strategy. And because Tripp, that's so important. It's how you function, especially in Tallahassee. It is a close-knit group. It is a the lobby realm is very closely knit. The legislative staff realm is very closely knit. And yet sometimes it does take strategy and tactfulness, and especially the knowledge that you acquire of how to move, how not to move. Explain just a little bit the importance of that.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. And a big piece of that's important is the coalition building. And I'll give a plug to the Ag Coalition now that Farm Bureau is a member of, along with a lot of other sister organizations that we work with in the state and businesses. Absolutely. And putting our minds together on ag issues and where we might have partnerships with groups that may not be ag groups. They could be oil and natural gas groups that are using this for their business, and they've got a private property rights issue that we can accompany them with as well. And so the coalition building is huge, listening and having conversations with people, and frankly, being candid with your opponents, and just
That's right.
remembering that just because that person's on the other side of the aisle with you, it's not personal, and give that person the professional courtesy. Try to have those conversations and really approach the thing tactfully, as you mentioned, and be an upfront guy. I think that sometimes the lobbying realm, people forget that, but I think that it really comes down to building trust and rapport, and being honest with each other and working towards that common goal, because somewhere in the middle is where it seems to land.
Absolutely. Well, you have the Ag Coalition in Tallahassee, which is, as you mentioned, is a conglomeration of a group that meets together. And at a congressional or national level, you have American Farm Bureau, which is a very large network. And tell us a little bit about the relationship and the connections that you have in American Farm Bureau, Lance, that are just as equally important that Tripp may have at the state level with the Ag Coalition that you have been possessed with American Farm Bureau.
Sure, and I would say too, going off of that, a lot of my work before I came to Farm Bureau was state focused in Tallahassee. So transitioning that to DC, that's a monster of a task. It's a big town. It's a small town. It's a big town up
That's
there.
right. Sure.
And I've really found that strength in numbers in DC is really how you can move the needle and get things done. When you've got 50 farm bureaus plus Puerto Rico working on behalf of American Farm Bureau, a lot of those state farm bureaus working together and rowing in the same direction is how you can move policy forward and get the ball down the field. There's plenty of times where our southern region folks, we bounce ideas off each other. We encourage our other state delegations to sign on the letters that maybe a member in North Carolina or Arkansas or Louisiana, wherever it may be. But just getting a lot of folks, getting a lot of organizations signed on to whether it's letters or ideas or policies, that really is how you can get things going. And, one thing that sticks out is, about this time last year, you and I were in DC for resolutions, and the Congress at the time was dealing with their end of the year CR, and it was touch and go, hit or miss on if there was going to be any economic relief included in that bill for farmers at the end of the year. And, American Farm Bureau, state farm bureaus caught wind of that. And I have not seen grassroots mobilized like that before, to where the whole conversation did a 180 and switched, and that 13 billion or whatever it ended up being did get included because of a grassroots, strong, big collaboration of state farm bureaus working together.
It is. It's a unique group that we're involved with, and a very special one at that. But both y'all live in the Tallahassee area. Your office is in the Tallahassee area. A lot of people may not realize it, but Florida Farm Bureau, they see our presence as being in Gainesville, but we do have an office in Tallahassee. That's where you report on a pretty consistent basis there. Tell us a little bit about that facility so folks will be familiar with it as well. And if they stop by, can they talk to you if they were to stop by? Remember, we're to come by in Tallahassee and be able to find you.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I'll give a shout out to Chris Cavoto. So she runs the office up there, and she's Lance and I's boss in Tallahassee.
That's the office mom.
That's the office boss.
And she has been around a long time.
Yes,
She's
sir.
a real value.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
But absolutely, it's an awesome building in Tallahassee, just down College Street from the Capitol. So we're a close walk to the Capitol, really strategic for meetings, and really strategic for folks that are coming to meet with legislators. We can be a hub to host those meetings if they need to be off campus or something like that. What I should say about folks coming to see us at the office, we'd love that. I mean, we're kind of out on an island, and so we don't get as much foot traffic as y'all do in Gainesville. But if you're coming through Tallahassee, we'd love to buy you lunch. Let us know you're coming. We'll order to the office and sit down, and we'd really enjoy that. It's an awesome office in a really good location, and Chris does a good job taking care of it.
And I would say, if I can add to that, President
Sure.
Smith, I think too, with the team we have, with just myself in national affairs, and then just Tripp and state affairs, there's a real value, I think, in because the national affairs used to be based out of this office here in Gainesville. And I think the idea to all things legislative housed in one building in Tallahassee, I think it's great for, if I've got a question and need someone to bounce an idea off of, I can walk down the hall and pick Tripp's brain, or vice versa. And there's real value in being able to do that.
For sure.
It's very common for a state farm bureau to actually be located, their hub to be in their state capital, and that, to have a presence, a very powerful presence there. We're kind of divided up because we're here in Gainesville, which is very centrally located, especially in the peninsula, but also to our largest land grant institution here at the University of Florida. But it's nice to have different locations for members to go and to be served in different parts. So I think it's very important for our members to know that we do have a presence in Tallahassee, and I appreciate the invitation, Tripp and Lance, both to be able to visit. I think it'd just be very helpful for folks to know and to be able to enjoy what they pay for and part of the benefit that they do get. But also part of that benefit, and very importantly, is the fulfillment of our mission. And that mission is to increase the net income of farmers and ranchers to improve the quality of rural life. And both of you do that. Is there anything you'd like to add in regard to that mission and how you accomplish it that you think the members would really appreciate?
I would just say, and I kind of look at it as, what can I do to get the monkey off someone's back? And I look at, certainly from a federal government perspective, looking through that lens, whether it's burdensome regulations or any sort of financial shackles that may be placed on a producer that we have here. That's kind of what we strive to do every day, whether that's, getting duties on tomatoes coming
That's right.
into the US so that our Florida producers have a chance at the market, or issuing comments on an AWR methodology rule to let the folks know in DC that they're working towards a good idea, but this is how we can make it even better, to interacting with folks on an international level at at the embassy level, just trying to find different countries that maybe we can open up a market and get some of our products in there. But really, all that to say, just whatever we can do just to make the lives of our members a little bit easier down here is kind of what I wake up and want to do every day.
You say get the monkey off the back. I think there's a lot of times there's just a lot of monkeys on the back
That's
that
right.
you're deal with, and you can't be everything to everybody in regard to getting things done, because it takes momentum, and as you mentioned, it takes grassroots, and you've seen that mobilized, you've witnessed it, and it can be a positive outcome. It just takes a really solid group effort to help, and all of our industry has definitely suffered at some point and continues to suffer, and to a certain point in regard to lack of profitability and being able to be able to survive and be sustainable in this environment we're in. Is there anything you'd like to add, Tripp, in regard to that thought of accomplishing the mission?
Sure. I would say, honestly, the mission fuels what we do in legislative affairs, state and national. I think about the scoreboard of things we've been able to achieve with Commissioner Simpson and former Senate President Simpson over the past few years. We think about the right to farm your land. Now it's bona fide, it's in statute. You can do what you need to do to make viable production. We had a really big issue last year that we worked on for a long time. Labor, it's normally
That's
a
right.
federal issue, and y'all do a great job on the H-2A regulations up there. But if we can't provide housing, you
That's right.
can't secure those contracts. And there was local governments around the state. I don't want to think they were being negative. I just don't think they understood. And so we needed a statewide standard. President Smith, you stepped up. Commissioner Simpson stepped up, and we delivered on that. And frankly, that wasn't a want, that was a need. We need that to be in business in Florida. We need that program to succeed, and now it is. And so it drives us. It keeps us creative when we're thinking of ideas of stuff to work on. We think about different tax exemptions. Maybe there's
That's right.
ways we can cut costs, whether it be a sales tax on a tractor or fuel or whatever it might be.
Or tangible personal property tax.
Yeah, that's a big one that's coming up. TPP, remember that. You need to vote. If I knew the number, I'd tell you, but I'm sure you will know it by next November. But it really drives us to be creative in our roles. And there's a lot of opportunity in legislative affairs to ensure not only on the economic side, but on the operations side, that you can do what you need to do to farm your land. And we've stood up a lot of that in the past few years and bona fide it into statute. And Florida is a good place to farm because of your leadership, Commissioner Simpson's leadership, and our members' advocacy over the past few years.
And boy, it is nice to have friends that have grown up in agriculture and to actually participate in elected office, and to be able, it makes it so much easier to carry our message through, and we can let them know. And sometimes we get scolded, like, why didn't you let me know soon enough? And we could handle that because they are so desirous to assist us. And we are very, very, very blessed to have Commissioner Wilton Simpson where he is. we're very blessed to have leadership in both the House and the Senate at the legislative level here in Florida to be able to accomplish a lot of our desires, and also at the national level. I mean, we have congressional members likewise that have come up through the ranks and been Farm Bureau members and are very passionate about our task. And those are good relationships to have. And we've trained and can take and have worked with a lot of these congressional members, legislative members, for them to be in spots like Commissioner Simpson, County Farm Bureau board member, County Farm Bureau board president, state director, and then ends up as Commissioner of Agriculture. And boy, he knows what we need. And he is so welcoming to us. And that's not always the case. And we don't take that for granted, because work can really become more arduous if we didn't have our people in these positions of leadership. So it makes it very, very fun. All right. Do you have any last or lingering thoughts you'd like to leave with the listeners? Tripp, I'll start with you.
Get involved. That's the first advice I would have, is to get involved. And whether that be reaching out to your legislator to introduce yourself, knocking doors on their campaign. If you're afforded the ability, maybe contributing to their campaign and helping them. If you're passionate about what they believe and think that they can make your quality of life better, reach out to that person and they will find a way for you to be helpful. It doesn't have to be financial. If you're interested in running for office, reach out to us. Make that leap. It's going to take leaders in the ag world to keep having the successes that we've had. Lance and I had the unique opportunity and great opportunity this past August to do a Farm Bureau candidate school. Great participation. Really excited to see some of those folks go out and win the races that they desire. And we need friends in the legislature, and we have them there now, but that's not from years of just expecting them to come. You've got to start at the grassroots level, as Farm Bureau does, engage them as we do. And if any of y'all that are listening have questions, we're that resource. And if we don't know the answer, we can find it or connect you with someone who does. So get involved, get to know your elected officials all the way from a local to a federal level. These folks are real and they want to hear your issues and be helpful. And we are too up in Tallahassee, Lance and I. We want to hear how we can help. We enjoy doing that part of it. Lance and I are very task oriented. And so get involved.
Lance?
I don't know I can sum it up any better than how Tripp did, but I would, just to play off of something you said, President Smith, sharing your story and carrying that story forward. I think nobody does that better than our members can.
Absolutely.
Tripp's very capable of doing it in Tallahassee, as I am in DC, but congressional members and state legislators, they want to hear from grassroots members. They want to hear anecdotal evidence and stories on why something works or why this doesn't work, and this is how we can fix it. I think getting involved that way, making your voice heard, that really is the best way to keep doing good things.
Very good. What is the best way to contact you? How does somebody find you and contact you?
I would say it's probably easiest to reach out to us via email. We're always looking at that thing. It stays dinging, and so we pay attention to it.
If you need to contact either Lance or Tripp, go to our website. You can find their phone numbers as well as their email addresses there, and they will be happy to assist you in any way possible. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Got one Gadsden County grown, one Leon County grown young men that are serving you as members out there in the field. Thank you both for attending today and being able to speak to our membership. I know they've had to learn a lot, and they will continue to benefit if they'll just utilize you in DC as well as in Tallahassee. So
yes, sir.
Thank y'all for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for supporting the Rural Recharge podcast. We hope that you are enjoying these conversations brought to you by farmers for your benefit. While you're here, please consider giving us a rating or a review. It really does help us to continue to share the stories of our Florida farm families and the important impact they have on your community. Thank you, and have a great day.